Yeah, my name is, full name is Duggan Stratford. I go by Doug, but that's why everybody knows me by Doug Stratford. But Duggan is my real Christian name. It's named after my grandfather, Dan Duggan, who was the original owner of the property. Him and my grandmother, Amelia Duggan, moved here in 1920. And they had a daughter named, my mother, named Patricia. She was only about 5 or 6 at the time.
And we came from Townsville to Cairns in a boat named Kuranda, because there was no bridge over the Darragee River, and the only way to get between the two towns was by ship. From Cairns to Kuranda, we had to come up in the real old steam train that was throwing out soot in the tunnels. It wasn't very pleasant. But to get from the ship to the railway station, it was by sulky.
My grandfather came here selling Singer sewing machines way back in the early 20s. He came to Kuranda and sort of fell in love with the place and decided he'd like to live here, and then that was actually 1919, and he came back again and found this place was on the market for £1 pound an acre.
But I can remember my first day at school over here.
At Kuranda State School?
At Kuranda State School.
What was that like? What do you remember about that?
It was a one-teacher school.
And what was your first day like? What do you remember of that?
Oh, sorry, but I had an Irish accent, and I didn't fit in for a while. They said, "Oh, you talk funny," and so I had to get my Australian accent. I walked around the paddock here, learning to talk through my nose, so that I could be just the same as the other children. So that was a little bit of a bugbear, and that almost everybody in Kuranda was related, but I did fit in quite well.
And they built a house on the property, and everything had to be carried in by bullock team. There was no real roads or anything. And then I think it was Macmillan or somebody that blazed the trail straight up the side of the mountain. It was a shorter track and a lot easier access, and that was the bullock road through to Kuranda, which was used only for horses and bullocks until about 1928, I think it was, when they run the first car up over the hill. So they built a little tiny bridge over the Bowen River to get through to Kuranda, and they started a little township on the other side of Kuranda, on the other side of the bridge, which is now the cemetery, and that was called Middle Crossing.
I used to have two bullock teams to pull up the provisions, whatever they were wanting to take up further to the tableland. And this was a changeover paddock, and they had sly grog here. It must have been a wonderful place those times. I used to play in the old where it had been made, the old still. Oh, yes. So that's going back my memories of, my first memories of Kuranda.
He was a go-ahead sort of bloke. He was an Irishman, and he wasn't backwards in coming forwards. He did lots of things that most people wouldn't do. I know he was trying to wake the town of Kuranda up and go into full-time tourism. At one time he was the original founder of the Chamber of Commerce in Kuranda. He was president for many years, and he was always doing things to publicise the place, and he rode his horse into the bar of the bottom hotel to stir everybody up, and that caused a bit of a ruckus. But he was a really adventurous, go-ahead sort of bloke. There was a freehold block block of land there. I don't know how it come to be there, but there was. And I didn't know much about it until the 60s, and they called him the Mad Musician. I don't even know what his name was. He built a shack up there, and he took a big grand piano up there, and I had a fuel agency at the time, and I had a truck, and he got onto me to carry all his timber and everything up, and then he said, I want you to take my grand piano up. And I said, I don't think so. And of course this grand piano was worth thousands and thousands of dollars, and the road up there was just a road, just a two-wheel track through the bush. But anyway, he talked me into taking this grand piano up, and we got it up there without doing any damage, so... So he started rowing people across the river in a little rowboat and bringing them through here, and took them around and took them through the palms, and my grandmother would just about give them a 3-course meal for I think the original price was 1 and 6pence.
Do you know where of course you would know, where the CWA hall is?
Yes.
Well, just there are a couple of houses further along. Well, that's where the hotel was. Pierce's Hotel. I think they used to call it the Baron Falls Hotel.
Is that interesting? And what happened to that?
Of course, there was no power when we came here. Everybody had kerosene lights and that. Mm-hmm. And I think a light exploded. One of those that should pump up a Aladdin lamp or whatever, something like that, and they threw it out, and I suppose the grass, everything caught fire and burned the hotel to the ground.
Gee, so Kuranda must have been pretty,
pretty thirsty lot.
Golf was sort of becoming a favourite pastime, and he opened a 9-hole golf course on the property in amongst the cows. And they had this 9-hole golf course, which was very successful. There was a lot of big tournaments played. He found this big rock up on the hill, and he could see the potential in using that as a lookout rock. Governor Goodwin, the governor of Queensland, was coming up to Cairns to officially open something up in Cairns. So he took the opportunity of writing him a letter and asking him to come to Kuranda and name his rock Governor Goodwin's Lookout. And so he obligingly came up here, and they bought a bottle of champagne at one of the local pubs and came through and went up onto the rock and smashed the bottle of champagne over the rock and named it Governor Goodwin's Lookout. And that put another attraction to his tourist venture. At one stage there was big floods, and all the miners, there was thousands of people up on the goldfields, and they all started to starve from lack of supplies. So they lobbied the government to build a railway line up from Cairns to Kuranda over the mountains. And that eventually happened in 1888. They decided to build the railway line, and they built the railway line through to Kuranda, or through to Myola originally, and that's how Kuranda developed into a little town. It was there was a lady, Mrs. Remilton. She was another woman of the future, and she could see that the railway line was coming to Kuranda, so she picked a spot out and took a selection up on it, which was the bottom hotel, and that was called the Remilton Hotel. And she was a lady with a young boy, and they actually walked up the old Bullock Road and found where they wanted to put the pub and started building it, so that when the railway line did get through to Kuranda in 1891, there was a hotel already half built here. So that's how the bottom hotel started, and then of course the town was surveyed off in 1888, and Kuranda became a town.
The township, as we called it, we always called it the town, had 3 hotels and a hall and a couple of houses in the main street. And the timber cutters, when they carted the timber in on the timber trucks, there was a cloud of dust. That was no road, just a track through the main street.
We started off with a couple of sawmills and ended up with 3 sawmills in the area, and a lot of all this timber that was being cut, and that was all sent to Cairns.
Logs were loaded at the railway ramp and sent to Cairns to be to the sawmill there.
Oh, yes, yes.
And some of them were huge. They had to be split with dynamite to get them through the tunnel. And I've always thought of that as gospel. And I asked Tom Punch just before he died, because he was involved with the timber, and he said, that's right. They were so large that they wouldn't fit through the tunnel.
The 1940, I think it was, when war was raging, and they're bringing all the troops up from the jungle training all through here and up the tableland. A lot of the palm trees here, there is places where the American soldiers actually carved their names into the trees, or their initials. A lot of them thought that they probably wouldn't be around for very long once they got into the war zone, and